Hey there, and welcome to RSQ, a channel that specializes in the lore and story of the Horizon franchise. As we eagerly await the much-anticipated sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, we have only been given so much information concerning Forbidden West leading up to its release. So far, we've analyzed the initial release trailer several months ago, Guerrilla's follow-up video elaborating on the trailer, as well as the comic series that takes place after the events of the first game. Beyond these resources, however, there is very little that has been revealed since. Despite the lack of updates, there is one small piece of information that could afford us a glimpse into what we might expect in the upcoming game. For those who don't like to engage in speculation or have not finished the first game, we will be delving into spoiler territory and potential spoilers as we analyze the clues that lay before us. And with that, let's get started. With Horizon's penchant for mystery and discovery, it's understandable that Guerrilla Games have kept their cards close to their chest when it comes to details on Forbidden West. But we have gleaned some information from Horizon Forbidden West's IMDb page, specifically its cast and crew section, on who and potentially what we may find in the next chapter of Aloy's journey, though the page has been edited since the recording of this video. To begin, there are some fairly obvious characters that will be returning in the next game, principally Aloy and Silence, who are both pivotal characters in Zero Dawn and featured in the official trailer for Forbidden West. A bit more surprising, however, is the inclusion of the highly decorated Carja warrior Uthid, who we came to know during the questline involving the Shadow Carja and the youngest son of the Mad Sun King, Itamen. After Sun King Jiran was overthrown by his middle son, Avad, Uthid's loyalty would belong to Itamen, and he would join with the Shadow Carja in Sunfall. However, after some time seeing the conditions and treatment of the lower classes of the Shadow Carja populace, and with false charges levied against him by his own faction, he eventually was swayed to return to the fold of Meridian, eventually extracting justice upon the corrupt Sun Priest Bahavas in the Traitor's Bounty questline. For those who completed this questline before the Looming Shadow, Uthid would be present during the Siege of Meridian, defending the city against the corrupted machines of Hades. Though a compelling character, I find his inclusion in the sequel as a bit unexpected, as his role was relatively minor compared to many others in the main story. Perhaps he will play a role in bringing the Shadow Carja to accept Avad as the one true Sun King. With his history with both sides of the conflict, his experience could prove invaluable in reuniting the Carja peoples towards the beginning of the next game, closing the chapter on this ugly time in the tribe's history. Next, we have a character by the name of Alva. Beyond this, however, we know very little, being to the best of my knowledge, this is an entirely new character, and not featured in the games or the comics thus far. This could change, however, as they could be featured in the next run of HZD comics that presumably will focus on Erend's story after the events of the Battle of the Elite. Lastly, and perhaps most intriguing of the bunch, is a new entity named Hecaro. Though we are given no further information on this character, there is one unique detail here that could be very telling. Unlike the other names listed on IMDb, Hecaro is spelled out in all caps. To those who have spent some time diving into the lore of Horizon, you can probably guess why this is so exciting. Within the lore, there are two prominent types of entities that are designated in all caps in the manner we see with Hecaro. The first are the sub-functions of Project Zero Dawn itself. Hades, Hephaestus, Minerva, and so on are all recorded in all caps throughout the data points left in the first game. However, I personally feel this isn't the most likely conclusion to draw for Hecaro. Firstly, throughout all the data points, holo presentations, and data logs in the first game, there is no mention of Hecaro in relation to Project Zero Dawn. Secondly, from what I've researched, there is no prominent link in Greek or Roman mythology in the name Hecaro itself, which is an overt theme across all the subfunctions of ZD, which would lead me to believe that this entity is not a lost subfunction as some have speculated. The second type of entity we see designated in all caps, and what I feel is the true nature of Hecaro, is that of a pre-zero day artificial intelligence. Gaia, Vast Silver, and Cyan are recorded in all caps in more formal data points throughout the lore. To further support this conclusion, during Aloy's conversations with Cyan during the events of the Frozen Wilds, we learned that the Old Ones had created many AIs of varying degrees of sophistication pre-Zero Day. Personal servitors, industrial monitoring stations, military-grade conflict planners, and like Cyan and Vast Silver, clawback-era stewards of ecological restoration. Though this is an undoubtedly exciting possibility, there is a fair chance that if Hecaro is an ancient AI, it may be nowhere near close to the level of sentience and self-actualization as the AIs I previously mentioned, or even one of Gaia's rogue subfunctions as they continue to morph and change without her governance. For those who don't know, post-2044, after the infamous incident with Vast Silver, the Turing Act was passed to restrict the sentience of all future artificial intelligence. Though Cyan was constructed after this time, its true capability was hidden from the MIE, the regulatory body who enforced the act, as Cyan was clearly above the established legal limitations. Unless Hecaro's programmers took a similar path, it may be limited by the laws of the era. However, if it survived this long, much like Cyan, it could have grown and changed into something far beyond its original programming. Finally, as for what Hecaro's function might have been if it is indeed an AI, we have no answers at this time. But its name may be an acronym that could point us towards a specific function or purpose. Lore-wise, we have seen this before with Cyan, an acronym for Caldera of Yellowstone Analytic Nexus. As for what Hecaro might stand for, with such limited information to go off of, it's very difficult to come to anything definitive from the current lore. After all, it may point towards something entirely new, and we'll have to wait to discover just what that might be until we can make our own way into the Forbidden West. And that brings our journey to an end. If you'd like to see more content like this, likes and shares are always appreciated. And if you're hungry for more Horizon lore, be sure to hit subscribe and ring that bell. Also consider supporting the channel on Patreon to help us create more quality content just like this. Check out the link in the description. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep questing.